Hello, I'm Bart Walsh. This series is called Care of the Self. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been practicing psychotherapy for the last 37 years, and we're addressing a process called utilization sobriety. Utilization sobriety method involves about 6 steps. The first step is identifying the very best aspects of whatever substance it is that you'd like to use less of or none of, making a list of that. And then the second step involves developing a signaling system with your unconscious so that you can communicate directly with the unconscious. And in the last segment, we demonstrated how to develop finger signals, so that one finger lifting up is a yes response from the unconscious, a different finger lifting up is a no response. In this segment, we're going to talk about how to develop the very best of the substance that we're just calling X. Could be anything. It could be alcohol or heroin or cocaine. It doesn't matter what it is. It's something that you've used in the past and that your body has recorded. Before I illustrate how to develop your X tool, it's important to understand that you need to be free of X, whatever substance that is, for 24 hours. The more time away from X, the better. And it's simply because X fills up receptor sites in cells that give you the experience you like. And it's kind of like a lock and key thing. And so if X is still in your system, it's filling up those sites, and your natural responses can't be engaged. The natural X can't be employed. So 24 hours away from X is very important. Now, one exception would be alcohol. In extreme cases, 12 hours will do with alcohol, but everything else you want at least 24 hours or more. And that will allow you to develop this X tool to your satisfaction. Okay. For this segment, I encourage you to put yourself in a comfortable position and let your unconscious know that you're going to ask some questions and you'd like responses through your fingers. So you want to speak out loud to your unconscious. And then what you can do is review out loud what you've written down as the very best of the X substance. How it makes you feel, what it develops in you, just whatever is the best part of that experience for you. Just speak it out loud. And then ask the unconscious, will it be all right at this time to develop the best aspects of X, substituting X for whatever the substance is, of course, and await a response. Be patient awaiting that response. And if you get a yes response, then just let it happen. And you can ask the unconscious to please lift up that yes finger when it recognizes that you really are experiencing the best of X. So enjoy that experience, and when your finger lifts up, you determine whether this is a very acceptable experience for you or whether you'd like a more intense experience of X. If you want a more intense experience of X, then simply ask, will it be all right to intensify the X experience even more? Almost like I had another shot or snort or puff or whatever it might be. And if you get a yes response through one of those fingers, then just await that. And what you're doing is developing an acceptable experience of X. And once you have that acceptable experience of X, then on your non-signaling hand, the hand that doesn't have finger signals, put a couple of fingers together, or make a fist, or touch your fingers together somehow. I like to just put the thumb and index finger together, or middle finger, it doesn't matter. But put a couple of fingers together, and then ask the unconscious, will it be all right for me to access this same or even more intense X experience whenever I desire it, simply by touching these fingers together as they are now and requesting the X experience, so that I really will be able to access the X experience whenever I need it or desire it, simply by touching those fingers together and saying something like, I'd like the X experience now, please. Will it be all right for me to have that signaling system for X, so that I can call it up whenever I want to, whenever I need to, whenever I desire it? Patiently await a response. If you get a yes response, that means that you now have an X tool that you can use anytime you like. If you get a no response, ask the unconscious, is there something important I need to understand very clearly by way of having that signaling system for X? Patiently await a response. If you get a yes response, then ask, will that information become very clear to me now? And if you get a yes, then you can ask that information to come to conscious awareness, so you can be very clear about it. And once you have whatever information it is, you can clarify that by speaking out loud what you received and asking the unconscious, is this the information that I needed to understand? And if you get confirmation of that, then you can ask once again if it's okay to have that signaling system for X, so that whenever you put those fingers together and make that request for X, you'll be able to get it. All right. Now, if you get a no response to that question about information, you can ask, is there some other adjustment that needs to happen first before I can have that signaling system for X? And if you get a yes to that question, then you can ask, will that adjustment now take place? If you get a yes, then you can ask the yes finger to lift up when that adjustment is complete. And then once again ask if it's okay to have that signaling system for the X experience. So there's a number of contingencies that you may run into. Ultimately, you should be able to get an okay from the unconscious to call up the X. Now, in the past, I've worked with some people who had to resolve some guilt about using X before they could really develop that signaling system for X, but, well, that's a matter of asking, and we will get into emotional resolution in another segment, well, another series of segments. But ultimately, you should be able to get the X tool, to develop the X tool. Now let's assume that you've developed the X tool. It's very nice to have a timer attached to that tool so that you can determine the length of time you'll be experiencing X. So for this, I encourage you to close your eyes and imagine seeing a timer of any sort you like. It look like an alarm clock. Could be anything. But once you have a picture of a timer, then ask the unconscious, will it be all right to attach this timer to my X tool so that I can regulate the duration of the X experience, so that I can set the timer for whatever time I desire to maintain that X experience? Will it be all right to have that timer attached to my X tool? Patiently await a response, and if you get a yes response, that means that your timer is in place and you can use it whenever you use the X tool. If you get a no response, you can ask the unconscious, is there some other adjustment that needs to happen first before I can attach that timer to my X tool? And if you get a yes for that, you can ask that that adjustment take place and ask the yes finger to lift up when the adjustment is complete. If you get a no response, you can ask, is there something important I need to understand by way of developing that timer with my tool? And if you get a yes, you can ask that that information come to conscious awareness. And once you receive something, you can speak that something out loud and ask the unconscious, is this the information that I was supposed to understand? If you get a yes, then you can ask again, will it be all right to attach that timer to my X tool? If you get a no concerning the information, then you can come back to this another time. Perhaps it just isn't the right time for the unconscious to, well, take that step of attaching the timer. Well, now that you have the tool and you have the timer, you're in very good shape. And you can use this tool whenever you like, and you can set the timer. You might want it for 15 minutes, you might want it for 3 hours, it doesn't matter. You can regulate the duration of your X experience with that timer. Great. Okay, now there's one other step I'd like to include here, and that has to do with the need or the craving for the X substance. For some of you, there is no craving or need, but for others, the particular substance you're dealing with really produces a powerful craving. So a nice step is to ask the unconscious, will it be all right at this time to resolve whatever craving or need I have for X, so that my entire system can be free of that craving or need for X? Will adjustments now be made to free me of that craving or need for X? Patiently await a response. It's a big question. If you get a yes, then you can ask the yes finger to lift up again when your entire system is really free of any craving or need for X. If you get a no, then you can ask the unconscious, is there something important I need to understand very clearly by way of resolving that craving? And if you get a yes, you can say, will that important information become very clear as my system becomes free of any craving for X? If you get a yes to that, then you can ask the yes finger to lift up when those adjustments are complete, when that understanding is complete, and when you're free of that craving. Now, if you get a no, you can ask the unconscious, is this something that needs to happen at another time? get a yes, then come back to it sometime later. If you get a no, then you can ask, is there some other awareness that needs to be addressed, or some important information I need to understand by way of becoming free of this craving? If you get a yes, then you can ask that information or awareness become very clear, and then check it out with your unconscious out loud. Make sure it's the right information. And again, ask for those adjustments to become free of the craving or need for X. This is the sequence for utilization sobriety. In the next segment, we'll be addressing the resolution of emotion, accumulated emotion. And, well, there'll be a lot more in future segments we'll be talking about concerning emotion. For now, realize that the information I'm sharing is in the Utilization Sobriety book, as well as the latest book, Care of the Self Owner's Manual. I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next segment. Till then.